Hey guys, sorry that I am out today. It was super unexpected. But these notes won't be too long. Today we're going to do a quick discussion on parallelograms and what those are, and then one type of parallelogram, which is the rectangle. Okay, so first I need you guys to copy all of this. Okay, so what's the definition of a parallelogram? A parallelogram is a four-sided shape where both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so the last few days we learned about kites and trapezoids, and trapezoids, if you remember, have one set of parallel sides. Okay, kites have the two consecutive sides that are congruent. Remember, they have like the top and the bottom, and those are congruent. So again, the definition is a four-sided shape where both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Okay, what do they mean by opposite sides? Okay, opposite sides, again, consecutive sides are two sides that meet and share a vertex, share an angle. Opposite sides means that one's on the left, one's on the right, or one's on top, one's on bottom. Okay, we're gonna draw all in a second. Okay, the important properties of parallelograms, again, we're going to fit this all in a second, okay, is that opposite sides are congruent, okay, so either the left and the right have to be the same measurement, or the top and the bottom have to be the same measurement, okay, because they have to be equal distance. Because if they weren't in equal distance, then they would be a trapezoid. Again, I'll explain more of this in a second. Okay, opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so opposite angles are congruent. Again, we'll talk about what the opposite angles are in a minute. Okay, consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, remember, this is a really important word. This test is consecutive angles. That means they're both on the same side. They're on the transversal pieces. Okay, and diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so again, I'll give you about 1 more minute to copy this down, and then we're going to fill it all in. Okay. So a four-sided shape where both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles are congruent, consecutive angles are supplementary, and last but not least, diagonals must bisect each other. Okay, again, got 20 more seconds. So all right. Hopefully that you guys are done with that. If not, you can copy this down from your neighbor, but again, it shouldn't take too long to get all this. So I'll leave it up as I draw in the shape as well. Okay, so first, the definition. A four-sided shape where both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So what you got to think when you think opposite is you're like, if this is the left, then the opposite would be the right. So these two have to be parallel. Okay? Same with the top and the bottom. So what's the opposite of the top? That would be the bottom. Remember that triangles mean that things are parallel. Okay, so there's the first definition. Okay, the properties, opposite sides are congruent. Okay, so what does it mean to be congruent? It means they're equal. So if this one right here will match this one right here, the left and the right have to be the same length. Same with the top and the bottom. Okay, the top and the bottom must be the same. Right? The next one, opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so remember, opposite angles mean that you go from like the bottom left and the top right. Those are complete opposites. So if the bottom left will match the top right, then the top left will have to match the bottom right. Okay, so again, the bottom left matches the top right, the top left matches the bottom right. Okay, consecutive angles are supplementary, okay? So let's label this A, B, C, and D. Okay, so again, consecutive angles are supplementary, so that means like A plus B equals 180 degrees. That's what supplementary is. If you don't remember, that's 180 degrees. Okay, same as the other ones, okay? Same, B and C will add up to 180 degrees, C and D will add up to 180 degrees, just as long as the two angles are on the same transversal. Okay, so on this side equals 180, okay? So, since they have two sets of parallel lines, the top and the bottom are considered transversals, and then same thing, if the top and bottom are this parallel, then AB is considered transversal, CD is a transversal. So as long as the angles are on the same transversal piece, they add up to 180. Okay, so opposites are congruent, same transversal, they add up to 180. All right, last but not least, the diagonals must bisect each other, okay? So that means this piece and this piece, okay? They're both cut in half. So this piece right here matches this piece right here. This one right here matches this one right here. Notice I did 3 lines on this one, and 4 on this one and this one. Later on, we'll have one where all the diagonal pieces are congruent, but not in this one. Only the pieces are on the same diagonal match for parallelograms. So if this was point E, you would say AE equals EC, okay, same thing. BE matches ED, okay. If I was giving you the full length, you could either multiply either one of those pieces by 2 to equal the full length. All right, then we have these rules over here, okay. This is how you test for a parallelogram, okay. So both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, okay. So again, both pairs of opposite sides, so the top and the bottom, the left and right, are congruent. If they're all marked, you can say rule number 1 works. Okay. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. Okay. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. So again, B and D would match, A and C would match. If all those were given to you, you can prove that they are congruent. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay, that's obvious if the diagonals are both cut in half. Okay, so AE matches EC and EB matches ED, then you're good. And one last is one pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Okay. So on your examples, I forgot to put the arrows on these. I always forget that. Okay. So we're going to look at the rules above, the ones in this box right here, and figure out which one of these is true for these statements, if there's enough information. So what did I give you on this first one? Okay, I gave you that these are supplementary, the consecutive angles are supplementary, but nowhere on here in rule 1, 2, 3, or 4 does it say anything about consecutive angles are supplementary. So let's see what else we got. We got that they are parallel, okay, and that 14 and 14, those are the same lengths. So what rule says that these are parallel and are the same length? If you look, that would be number 4. One pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. They must be both. So on a test, if I asked you what makes this a parallelogram, you would say rule number 4. Okay, let me write in different colors so you guys can see. Rule number 4, which says one side is parallel and congruent. Okay, one side is parallel and congruent. Okay, what about the next one, this middle one? Okay. This one has 12 and 12. Those are matching, and then it has 5 and 5. So what do we have? We have opposite sides on both the left and the right, and the top and the bottom are equal lengths, right? They're congruent. So let's read number 1. Both pairs, both means the left and right and up and down of opposite sides are congruent. Is that true? Yes. So this would be rule number 1. If I can spell rule. Okay. Both sides are congruent. Okay. So So the top and bottom are congruent, the left and the right are congruent. I should say both pairs of sides, but it's okay. All right, on this one, what is given to us, okay? We're given that we have a side, okay, is congruent, and that opposite angles are congruent. Okay, were we told these two angles are congruent? No. Were we told the lines are parallel? No. So let's see if there's anything that says opposite angles are congruent and one side is congruent. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Is that what this is? No, we're not told the top and the bottom match, so we can't do that one. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. Well, those are congruent, but are we told that these are congruent? No, we are not told that those are congruent. If we're not told they're congruent, we can't claim that, okay? You would subtract those both from 360, and unless they're split in half, but we don't know if they're split in half. Okay, diagonals. Are there any diagonals even drawn in here? No. One pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Well, although they are congruent, are we told they are parallel? No. So this is actually not enough info. Okay, it has to have everything stated in the rule to be true. Okay, you can't assume anything. All right, this one has the diagonals drawn in and told that these two are congruent, which works, and that this one is bisected as well because those pieces are congruent. So is there any rule in here that states that diagonals are congruent or diagonals are bisected? Yes, this one right here, number 3, diagonals bisect each other. So this would be rule number 3. Okay. Okay, last but not least, we have this one. Okay. What are we told here? Are we told anything about opposite sides being congruent? No. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. Do we know the opposite angles measurements? Do we know this guy and this guy? No. So we can't claim that. There are no diagonals drawn in, so we can't use that. The last rule, one pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Well, none of the sides are marked parallel or congruent, so we can't assume that. So this one is actually not enough info as well. Okay. So again, this side's kind of confusing. I'll go over it more in class again, how to really tell, but they have to be drawn in for you. You can't assume anything is what I'm trying to get at here. All right. Moving down, it says solve for the variables, okay? So you're told all of them are already parallelograms, so you don't have to do anything like crazy to change them, okay? So let's solve for this one first. Let's solve for x. So we have 4x and we have 2x minus 6. All right, what kind of angles are these? Okay, I'm hoping that you guys have said that these are consecutive angles, okay? Again, that's a really important word, consecutive angles, okay? So if here's our parallel lines, right, that are congruent, this would be our transversal. As long as they're on the same transversal, they add up to 180. So for this, you should say 4x plus 2x minus 6 equals 180. So 6x minus 6 equals 180. Add 6. 6x equals 186. Okay, divide each side by 6, and what is x? X is 31, I believe. All right. Here we go. Let's do the next section. Okay, the next section is right here, or the next part. We have to do y's. Okay, what do we know about the top line and the bottom line? The top and the bottom, to be a parallelogram, they have to be congruent. So y plus 8 has to equal 5y. So 8 equals 4y. Divide by 4. Y is equal to 2. Okay. And again, if you plug that in, that's true. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 plus 8 is 10 as well. Okay. All right. Again, what do we know about the diagonals in a parallelogram for the next part? What we know about diagonals in the is that they are congruent, okay? They are bisected, they are cut in half. So those pieces have to be equal to each other. So 3z minus 4 has to equal z plus 5. Subtract z, add 4. So 2z equals 9. Okay. Divide that by 2. Okay, so what is x? X, does that divide? Not without a decimal, so we can keep as a fraction, but if you did it as a decimal, that works as well. Okay. All right, so again, hopefully this all makes sense. Okay, set them equals, subtract, move everything over. This would be your final answer. All right, last ones. Okay, so we know that these, the parallel lines cut by the transversal. So again, we have parallel lines. Let's say that this guy is parallel to this guy, cut by the transversal, okay? Although you can solve for these by saying that these add up to 180, that's one way, okay? Is there an easier way? Yes, okay? You can either add those up to 180, the ones that fall on the same transversal, or you can say opposite angles are congruent. I would probably do that because on this transversal right here, you notice this is y and this is x, so that might get a little confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say opposite angles are congruent for this one. So 7x equals 56, divide by 7, x is equal to 8. And that's a lot easier, again, doing opposite angles are congruent than trying to add up those to 180. Okay, so same idea. What's opposite of this? This is the bottom left, so the top right has to be congruent to it. So 5y minus 26 equals 4y plus 4. Okay, minus 4y, add 26, add 26. 5 minus 4 is 1y. 4 plus 26 is 30. Okay, so that would be the answer. So x is 8 and y is 30. Sorry. All right, let's see what else we have. All right, x's should be pretty easy to solve for here, okay? Hopefully everybody's done with that piece. I'm sure you are. Okay, the x's should be pretty easy to solve for, okay? Again, these are parallelograms, okay? So these pieces have to be congruent. So I'm gonna do it over here. So 4x minus 17 equals 2x minus 1. Okay, minus 2x, add 17, just make sure I do this all right, okay. 2x would be left, negative 1 plus 17, or 17 minus 1 is 16, so x should be 8. All right, now let's throw it back all the way to September-ish when we did parallel lines cut by transversals. So yes, these pieces right here and here have to be congruent. But notice, remember parallel lines can also be cut by transversals going in directions like this. Remember if we extended it? And what do we know about this angle and this angle? Okay, look at, they both are acute purple to pink, acute purple to pink. So those are called alternate interior angles because they're inside the parallel lines, but they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, so what do we know about alternate interior angles? Alternate interior angles are congruent. So 5y minus 13 equals 3y plus 5. Okay. Again, the green lines really don't mean anything in this example. We don't need those. What we need is the two parallel lines on top and bottom cut by the transversal, and then know the alternate interior angle rules. Okay, so minus 3y minus 3y plus 13 plus 13. That is 2y equals 18. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Y equals 9. All right. Leave that for a second. Make sure everybody has everything. All right. Also, guys, I know the notes say 10.3. I'm supposed to say 12.3. That was an error. All right. All right. Here is the next part. We're going to talk about rectangles, okay? So rectangles follow all the same properties of parallelograms. Here's all the properties of parallelograms, okay? So their opposite sides are congruent, the opposite sides are parallel, the opposite angles are congruent, the consecutive angles are supplementary, meaning they add up, okay? So the ones on the same transversal add up to 180. The diagonals bisect each other. What is important about rectangles is that rectangles, although they are bisected, they are not perpendicular bisected. They do not bisect at 90 degrees, okay? That's super important because when we get to squares, squares are going to be at 90 degrees and all that, okay? But the diagonals in a rectangle are not perpendicular, okay? They cut in half, but they don't cut in half at 90 degrees, okay? The other two rules you need to know is that all 4 angles are right angles, which I hope you would know. I think you learned that in like kindergarten. Okay, and the diagonals are congruent, okay? So not are they bisected, but no matter which one you pick, the diagonals are going to be congruent. What I mean by this, hopefully I can draw an okay rectangle. Okay, let's go up here. Already looking a little rough, but we're trying. Let me erase this line, right? I don't like this line. Okay. Oh, I need that taller. It's fine. I'll figure it out. Okay, now let's connect this. Okay, so again, what this states is that all of these have to be 90 degrees. Okay, and then the diagonals, which go from one side to the other, and one side to the other. Okay, see this? Does this right here look like a 90-degree angle? No. So all of these pieces are congruent, but they don't cross at 90 degrees. This could be like 120 degrees. This could be the other 60, all that. Okay. The top and the bottom have to be the same measurement, but the left and the right can be a different number, which I think you guys all know. Okay. I think that's all. Like I said, obviously 90 plus 90 is 180. Okay. So let's get going. But this picture is super important to know. All right. Each of the following, each quadrilateral below is a rectangle. So we already know it is a rectangle. Find the missing measurements, okay? So if D to B is 42, okay? So 42 for the whole thing, those are congruent. You could divide this by 2. And D to E would be 21, right? So that's 21, and this is 21, which means these ones are also 21. 21, 21. AD is 26. Okay. That means BC is also 26. Okay. DAE, okay? D to A to E. So that means we're starting at D. We're walking, D to A to E, sorry, D to A to E. So this one right here is 52 degrees, okay? What else do you think you can say? Okay, you can say this guy is 52 degrees, okay? You can say this guy is 52 degrees, okay? And this one's gonna be 52 degrees. So pretty much if you cut this in half and flip them over each other, they're all going to match. So let's find the other parts of the triangle, because I'm guessing they want you to find A, B, and all that. Yes. Okay, let's start with the other angles, okay? How can you find this one right here, which is matches to this one, which matches to this one, which matches to this one? Okay, how can you find those? Okay, well, let's talk about, I'm just going to use angle B. What do we know about angle B? It has to be 90 degrees. So if I subtract that from 52, okay, that is 38. So all of these little pink angles are going to be 38 degrees. Okay. Now you might be saying, okay, what about the angles in the middle? How can we find this guy right here? I'm going to draw 3 arcs. Well, if this is 52 and this is 52, okay, and you have a triangle right here, you could do 180, so the triangles are 180, minus 52, minus 52, okay? 52 plus 52 is 104, so that leaves us with 76 degrees to go there. So this is 76. We know the rule of vertical angles, correct, which is 76, okay? And again, if you have a straight line, okay, that means these ones right here, if this is a straight line, 76, 180 minus 76 obviously is 104. So this one right here is also 104. All right, we are almost there. We still need to find the last bit of sides. Okay, I'm gonna pick a different color. There's a lot going on here. I wanna do purple. Okay, how can we find the measure of AB if, I wanna make that a little darker. Okay, so this one right here, if we know that this is a right angle, well, we have this side, don't we? And do we know the length of the diagonal? Yes, we do. It was 42, right? For the whole thing. So I'm gonna use triangle, okay? B, A is my right angle, and D, where we're looking for B to A, okay? And we know A to D is 26, and this guy is 21 plus 21, so 42. So X is equal to, I hope you guys know Pythagorean theorem by now, 42 squared minus 26 squared. This I will need my calculator for. Where is my calculator? Here it is. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do a split screen. Okay. With my calculator. And so what was the measurements? Okay, so it's the square root of 42 squared minus 26 squared, which is 32.98. Let's just round that to approximately 33. Okay. Perfect. So now we have every measure. We know the lengths of the top, the bottom, the left, the right. Okay. We know all the angles, so let's start filling this guy out. Okay. So first thing it says, what is the measure from A to C? The measure from A to C, that's a diagonal. We know all the diagonals were 42. Okay, what's the measure from E to B? We knew that was 21. Okay, B to C is right here. B to C, that is 26. A to B, we just solved for. We said that's approximately 33. Okay, follow the path. Start at A, walk to D, walk to C. Oh, A to D to C, that's the right angle. That should be 90. Okay, A, B, D. So A to B to D. Okay, B is in the middle. So from A to B to D, that is that little pink angle right there, which we found was 38. Okay, BCA. So B to C to A is right here, which is 52. Okay, DEC, that's the last one. Okay, D to E to C, that's this one right here, the E in the middle. Okay, that's 104. Okay, all of those are degrees because they are angles. Okay, that's a lot. I know that's a lot to take on, a lot to listen to, all of that. Okay, again, if you have questions, I can go over when I get back tomorrow. Okay, looks like we have only one more question left. Okay, this is really similar to what you will see on the test. It says if V to W is 9x minus 11. And S to U is 16x minus 12. Okay, are those the same length? Yes or no? I need you to ask that first. Are they the same length? No. So there's two options. You know that this is half the length of the red line, okay? So if it's half the length of the red line, you can either split the red line in half, or you can extend, okay, this line and just double it. It's like 9x minus 11. Okay, that's your choice, but you have to make sure that they're equal measurements, okay? So SU is 2 of this, okay? So STU is 16x minus 12. V to T would be 2, so it'd be 9x plus 9x, okay? Which is 18x, okay? And negative 11 minus 11 is negative 22, okay? So we are going to bring over the 22 minus the 16x, okay? These cross out, okay? 12 or negative 12 plus 22 is a positive 10, okay? 18 minus 16 is 2x, okay? Divide by 2, x is equal to 5. It wants you now to find the measure of W to T. So what's the measure of W to T? The measure of W to T is just 9 times x, so 9 times 5, minus 11. So 9 times 5 is 45. 45 minus 11 is 34. So the measure of that would be 34. Okay? So again, you need to highlight the diagonals and make sure they're the same length, because again, if you just set this equal to 16x minus 12, you'll get it wrong on the test, because this is only half the length of the red, okay? So you can either double the purple piece or you can split the red piece in half. You'll still get the same answer. You'll still get x is 5, and then plug it into what it needs, which in this case was W to T, okay? And the length of W to T is just 9x minus 11. All right, I should be back tomorrow, okay? I will post these online as well. You can go check them out. Sorry again for being out. Have a good day. You guys now have a worksheet, okay? The worksheet looks like, oh, where's my drive? Okay, it's called 12.4 practice, okay? The front side is, looks like this, okay? The back side is rectangles, and then notice that you have right here, you have like a little review section of kites and of trapezoids and another kite. Okay, so make sure you work on this the rest of the class period. I hope you guys have a good day. Okay,